Business users and consumer users are one and the same. You're the same person at home that you are at the office. But this idea of having these great technology applications available to you at home, but then when you go into the office, you enter a bit of a time machine and you have to go back 10 years and start using old legacy systems. So we're really starting to see those two converge. The other really interesting trends that we're seeing are around mobile. The idea that this is going to be the primary device that a lot of people access their applications with. In 2012, we're expecting smartphones to outsell PCs and desktops combined.
The things that I'm looking at closely at the moment are consumer apps. Those that are focused on adding value to the time that people spend at the moment, and giving back consumers the ability for them to spend more time where it's most important, because that's what we value. So, the likes of BNZ and Kiwi Bank have launched their personal banking applications, and what that's doing is giving people back their time, because instead of spending the time budgeting, they're actually spending time with their family. So I think the trend is still going to be around consumer, giving back time, and then what we'll see is that businesses look at those applications and see how they can be integrated into some of the technologies that they're using. Because those free consumer apps, they really just drive adaptation and they drive behaviour, and they have huge lessons when they're applied at scale. So look, my tip, at the end it's all about delivering value and doing it on a device where the person needs it to give them back the thing that they value most, which is time.
In any decent business at the moment, IT is always a bit of pain. So is everything backed up properly? Is stuff running? There's outages, it's kind of a pain to keep the whole thing running. Now what cloud computing is starting to offer is that specialised organisations are able to provide the scalability of speed of response. It comes straight back to ultra-fast broadband, is that, for me to go and house all my data somewhere else in the world that's going to, keep it running far better than I'm going to, at a far better cost, give me richer functionality. I don't need to look at all the upgrade paths because that's happening for me, but I need to have that reliable connectivity to it.
Anytime we can get these things faster is going to be great, and like I say, the internet works really well for the blind, so being able to get through that stuff quicker, getting access to different media things through those is going to be good, especially, I guess, coming back to mobile stuff and mobile broadband, high-speed mobile broadband. That's going to aid in terms of, I guess, being able to access information readily. Like, you can't obviously pick up a brochure or something and read it, but if that sort of stuff's available to you online rapidly, then that's going to be ideal.
I mean, with what Pacific Fibre and before Kordia doing with the new sort of subterranean cables and stuff over to Australia and up to the States, I think once that sort of comes online, I think the ultra-fast broadband is going to make a far bigger difference to the country. At the moment, once we've got faster speed, it's great. We can get faster speed New Zealand content, but a far greater percentage of where we're trying to go to, what we're trying to do, is actually offshore. So until that second choke point is sort of resolved, it's not going to make a huge amount of difference. I mean, people will be able to work from home a lot better and things like that, so there will be some improvement, but the sort of greater changes that we're sort of hoping to see, I just don't see happening until we've got far better international connectivity at a reasonable price.
New Zealand is a very small country, and I think it really needs to take advantage of this, as much as it can in terms of, fast broadband or anything which can really help push New Zealand business and give them that competitive edge. That isolation, broadband is going to fix that. It's going to allow us to do things faster. Allow our businesses to get out there and really, get a global reach. If you look at other countries like Singapore, Hong Kong, they're all wired up, and they can, they become data centers. They become, they become IT centers. You think of Singapore as a high-tech city, or you think of Korea as a high-tech city. Can New Zealand become like that? Right now the answer is no, we can't. But hopefully, this IT stuff, this fast broadband, our businesses are going to become like that. We're going to start growing into a high-tech sector, and I think that's very important.
The amount of time and money we spend in advertising, in reaching the market, it's too very high. Now through Facebook and through Twitter, I seem to have achieved with a fraction of our cost, because people talk through mouth. Because there are certain services, whatever you advertise, people are not going to come. But by word to mouth, yes, people will come. If you are a good customer, if I served you well, and you are on Facebook, if somebody is looking for it, yeah, go to Sam.
I've recently heard today that there's a very good comparison between how fast various different technologies have reached out to the public. So I think radio took something like 50 years to get to X million people. Computers and the internet have taken, I think, about 4 to 5 years, and Facebook has taken less than 2. So it's the reach that you have, particularly for just getting information to a large volume of people very, very quickly.
Social media is, I believe, very much the future for us, because our future employees are coming in as graduates now, and they're going to be the business in 10, 15 years. You know, they're going to be the key to the business, and that's exactly the space they're going to be in. And whatever the social network looks like in 15 years is where these guys are going to be, and it's how they're going to interact on their daily basis.
Yes, we have a virtual branch on Facebook, and again, one of our application teams, we've got some really forward-thinking marketing people, and they've opened up a virtual branch on Facebook where you can go onto Facebook and go and chat with a real person online. In our contact center, we've got people sitting on Facebook all day just taking calls or virtual calls from people from Facebook land.
The future of social media is probably what I coined together as the gamification of life. So I think that actually everything's probably going to turn into a bit of a game, really. I don't know if you've ever played a Xbox 360. You play your game and you unlock achievements, and those achievements sort of encourage you further to do more achievements. I think that concept can be actually quite easily applied to life. So imagine that you change your oil in your car and you unlock your change the oil in my car achievement, and then if you can change your tires and you can change your radiator fluid and stuff like that, that encourages people to sort of kind of do a quest, and then at the end of that quest they get rewarded somehow, whether that's digitally or physically. People do all these sorts of things in their day-to-day life, but they don't really get recognized for their achievements. So I think a site or somewhere that you could go on and get the ability to say, hey man, I've gained the certification at work, I've done like the Kuril Crusher, I've climbed Mount Everest, I've dated twins, any sort of achievement. I think that's probably where I think the future of social media is going to be.
You may notice by the colour of my beard and that I've been around a little while, and cloud computing's been around forever in the name of mainframes, in the name of timeshares and so forth. So we just go on full circle, really. It's just that we're now taking the user experience of that up to date, so that we've got the full Windows look and feel and all of that. But we've gone from fully distributed back to centralised.
I think people will eventually question why they have PCs at home and have those devices. I've got 2 girls in sort of early teens, both having trouble with their laptops. I'm almost over hardware. I'd actually just like to have their images up in the cloud and they can access it over their cell phone, iPad, or a thin device at home. So I can see probably within 3 to 5 years there will be a shift where all PCs at home and maybe businesses will just, the image will start to go into the cloud and we'll access it over the internet, if you like. So I think that's the big shift from business sort of focus of cloud computing to consumer cloud computing, which is again your household, your family type stuff will go into the cloud.
Barriers to adoption of cloud computing is security, certainly security, where your data is hosted. You're not going to find banks doing cloud computing, putting their information in the cloud. But banks have been cloud computing for how many years? I've done internet banking for 15 years. Why all of a sudden is it a buzzword? It's now becoming a buzzword that everybody is jumping on the bandwagon but saying, oh yeah, maybe not. If you look at Microsoft's online productivity solutions, Microsoft Online, yes, definitely cloud computing. But when it comes to your data, that should stay in-house, where you know who has access to that. You know who can secure it, you are in charge of it, and you know if it's leaving the building or not.
For most enterprises, barriers to cloud adoption are really related to the issue of not just security, but also how do I get my data back if something goes wrong? And then when I get it back, what do I do with it? If I've pushed my CRM out to the cloud, and the provider of those services goes belly up and says, that's fine, here's all your data back, now what do I do with it? I don't have a CRM app anymore. And so there's some real concerns about the cloud industry making the enterprise, I guess, comfortable that those safeguards are going to be put into place.
A number of years ago, I worked on a concept that actually allowed people to sort of walk through a city and basically point in a direction and actually say, show me all the restaurants in that direction, and then spin around and show me all the restaurants in that direction and everything like that. And augmented reality really takes that to the next step. Essentially what you start to have is, as I'm looking around, I've got this camera on my phone and it's kind of showing me all these things, and I can actually see these virtual things that are kind of there, that if I could look them with my normal eyes, I actually wouldn't see them. So it gives you all these different possibilities for interacting with things around you that didn't exist before. It also gives you the ability to do marketing in all sorts of different innovative ways to people as well.
Are you familiar with Iron Man and Iron Man 2? They had the screens where he's moving things around, in and around. That's a reality today. I've seen it in operation. It's not on a clear screen yet, but it is on a touch screen, and it's we're going to do away with the mouse. We're going to do away with the keyboard. It's all going to be hand-driven and motion-driven, I think.
There is one thing that we are developing inside HP that's going to change the storage industry completely in the next 5 years. It's something called the Memristor. To articulate it in a couple of minutes, I'm not going to be able to do it justice, but it's a new form of storage technology that means that you can have the terabytes of storage in the size of what would be a smartphone at the moment, consuming virtually no power, and the storage is permanent. So you're talking hundreds of gigabytes, even terabytes in a very, very small space. So imagine that inside a server or a notebook or whatever else. Then you start connecting all these things together, then we're going to end up with Skynet all over again.